Okay, so Pantoro is an Australian gold miner. We're debt free. We paid all of the financing debt out that we used to build the project back in 2015 in April this year. We've continually grown the project since we commenced operations back in 2015. We recently completed a placement and a share purchase plan, raising approximately $13 million after costs. We don't have that number finalised just yet because the SPP is still being sorted out. We've got two high-grade underground mines for operation at our site, the first one being Nicholson's, and that's been the mainstay of production to this point, and is in production now. Wagtail underground mine's currently being developed. So we mined some open pits at Wagtail between 2016 and 2017. We're taking those underground now. You'll see we've got some very high grades like we've had at Nicholson's in there. So, like I say, we've pretty rapidly grown the production. We started with a feasibility production of about 25,000 ounces per annum. Last year we did just over 50,000 ounces per annum, and looking to increase that again with the additional underground mine coming on. So the company as it stands now, you can see that the cash and gold at the end of August was just over $9 million. We just raised about $13 million, so we're well funded for moving forward. We've got roughly 860 million shares on issue with a market cap of about $160 million. So this slide I think is an important one in understanding where we've taken the Halls Creek project from where we've started. So we started with the Nicholson's project, which are the tenements highlighted in green there. We paid for the project out of cash flow. We only raised $9 million before we started construction of the mine. We did the rest of it with debt. As we've gone along and we've increased our capacity, we've started to take a regional position in the area. So Mary River and Grants Creek are the first two acquisitions in that area, and I'll talk about those a little more as we go forward. But what's really important to understand here is we've got the only processing plant in the Kimberley region. So Northern Star owns the Coyote processing plant 300 kilometres to the south, down the Tanami track, which is a very long drive. It's not a 300 kilometre drive to Southern Cross. It's a very different setup. So we've very much got the Kimberley region covered for the style of deposits that we're mining. So in terms of the history, you can see there we purchased the mine in mid-2014. We started constructing in February 15, and we poured the first bar of gold in September 15. So we did it very cheaply, did it very rapidly. Through 2016 and 2017, we ramped up from that initial target of sort of 25,000 ounces up to doing 52,000 ounces last year. And moving forward now, we've just completed some pretty substantial capital projects on site, which I'll take you through. We've started acquiring additional projects, and we're in the midst of a fairly substantial drilling program at Grants Creek as the first one of those, and it's really all leading towards having two production centres, Nicholson's and Wagtail, having additional centres coming online, and achieving that continued production growth. So, having a look at where Nicholson's project is, you can see the map on the left hand side there. We're right up the top end of Western Australia, near the town of Halls Creek. Being near Halls Creek's been very good for us. We've been able to utilise camp facilities in town. We've been able to utilise the town airstrip and things like that. So here's a bit of a flyover of the site as it stands. So the Nicholson's open pit and underground mines on the left hand side there, the processing plant on the right hand side, and the waste dump from Nicholson's that we're flying over now. You can see that between Nicholson's and the Wagtail open pits, there's a trench that's taken some near gold veining just about the entire way between those open pits. We're actually undertaking some drilling through there at the moment. I expect we'll have some results there over the next few weeks. And then the drilling on the left-hand side that you can see there at the bottom of the screen now is really the extensions of Rowdy. So the same ore body as what sits beneath that open pit that's currently got water in there, and that's part of the Wagtail underground mine. Here's the portal at Wagtail North, so that's where we're starting the underground mining from Wagtail. We've also got a pretty substantial ore body beneath the Wagtail South open pit. There's a small air leg at it there where we've gone in and taken out some very high grade veining that didn't quite make it into the pit. But the main portal there will start once Wagtail North's in ore. You can see that we've continued to drill south of the Wagtail pit there as well. We believe there's a really strong possibility of having some additional ore and extending the strike length there. So what does that look like underground? The right-hand side's where that flyover started, where you can see the Nicholson's underground mine development at Nicholson's is currently about 320 metres below surface. So when we started, the open pit was 60 metres deep. We've done all of that over the last sort of 3 years. The gap between Rowdies and Nicholson's is the gap that I pointed out on the way through there, and we are continuing to see some gold mineralisation through there as we test it. And then we've got the Rowdies and Wagtail ore bodies. So all in all, we've got about 2.5 kilometres of strike length on that ore system overall. We currently sit with just over 200,000 ounces of gold in reserve. That was as of May 31st, so obviously we've mined some of that. The Nicholson's underground mine itself, that reserve sitting at 133,000 ounces, that's where all of the gold production's really come from since we did that last reserve. The project overall, just under 400,000 ounces, and I want to put that into a little bit of perspective. When we started, we had 80,000 ounces of reserve at Nicholson's. We had a total resource of about 160,000 ounces. So since that time, we've mined about 120,000 ounces now, and we've continued to grow it. So while we don't have a massive inventory there right now, you can see that we've very rapidly grown from the position that we had to where we are today. So Nicholson's gold mine, most people have seen a fair bit of this. Like I say, we've mined down to sort of 300 metres. 3 main lodes. There's a lot of little subsidiary sort of lodes where we've taken little bits of production from, but the mainstays of production have been the Hall, Anderson and Johnston lodes, and we continue to explore those lodes as we go down at depth. The Wagtail underground mine, like I said, we completed underground mining back in December 2017. We commenced underground mining in June 2018, and the gap in that period, believe it or not, was really a permitting exercise which we're still a little bit lost with, in that basically we've put a hole into the side of an existing open pit, and the red tape that we had to go through to get to there was quite astounding for what we're actually doing. But we're there now and we're developing. Wagtail's got known very high grade zones of mineralisation, just like we've seen at Nicholson's right through. So if I take you to the long section there, hopefully you can read some of those tags going through there. But a lot of hits that are multiple, 1 to 4 metres wide, anywhere from 7 up to sort of 30, 40 and even 60 grams a tonne there. So very similar sort of situation to what we've had at Nicholson's to date. As far as the development goes, we expect to be in the ore there during next month. Obviously the contribution to the total ore, while we've got a single development heading, isn't huge for the first few months, but that continues to grow as we open more and more production areas in the mine and development areas in the mine. So, we expect the first half of the year to go through at similar levels to where we've been. Towards the middle of next year, Wagtail should really be kicking in combination with Nicholson's and achieving that growth that we're targeting. Excuse me. You can see Wagtail, we've continued to drill since we did that last reserve. So the Wagtail reserve sits at just over 60,000 ounces at the moment, so pretty similar to what Nicholson's was when we started. We've continued to drill at depth below the reserve. We've continued to get some really good, strong results below there, and there's some more of that to come in the not too distant future. We're still drilling there now, so hopefully there's more of it to come in the not too distant future, but it's been going well to date. So the processing plant, we picked up the processing plant. We had a nameplate of about 130,000 tonnes per annum. We did some pretty minor changes initially to the plant. We added a tertiary crushing step, and that took us to being able to operate at about 240,000 tonnes per annum. So a fairly big step change for, once again, a very small change in the plant that was already there. So this plant was built back in 2002. It operated for a short time, sat dormant for about 13 years. So that was part of our startup capital to get that up and running again. We've just recently installed ore sorting into the processing plant, so we're using a Steinert multi-sensor ore sorter. The ore sorter works very well. We're actually mine constrained at the moment until we get the Wagtail ore coming up and adding to that, but the ore sorter's doing what we've expected it to do up to this point. So I want to spend a little bit of time on the regional exploration now. Obviously, like I say, it's been a fairly big focus for us in recent times as we've consolidated with cash flow from the operation, and we've had the ability to step out. So first of all, around Nicholson's, you can see there's multiple prospects there with good high-grade intersections all the way through there. The blue line that's marked there is the 2.5 kilometres that we're currently mining. We have an overall strike length there of about 11 kilometres, so there's quite a bit of real estate there to continue following up on. The first pass drilling, you can see we've had some very good results. The plan is for the coming year to hone in on Edison, Paddock Well and Western Reef, so you can see where those prospects are south of Nicholson's and one of them west of Nicholson's going forward, and obviously the aim is to bring that into resource. We've just finished a site-wide grid-based geochem sampling program, so we've done more than 3,000 samples. We've covered about 3/4 of the tenement area. All of that data's being collated now, but we've seen some good anomalism throughout the project areas. Then moving on to Grants Creek. So Grants Creek was the first additional prospect or tenure that we've picked up outside of Nicholson's. It's about 100 kilometres by road from Nicholson. So to put that into perspective, you're looking at sort of, in the order of $12 a tonne to truck ore from there, or 1/4 gram per tonne. So you can see from the historical drilling that's listed up there, there's some very high-grade known mineralisation. There's been some pretty extensive drilling through the 80s, 90s and 2000s. That 1/4 gram isn't going to be a major impost to this project if we can get it up into resource and reserve. So we've been drilling there since early September. We've gone pretty hard. We'll have somewhere in the order of 4,000 to 5,000 metres drilled by the middle of October, and that'll be the first point where we wait for some assays and understand what we've got. We've been drilling in 3 different prospects there. All of those prospects have historical drilling down to about 40 metres and have returned some good results. So we're pretty confident that we'll see some continuing results coming out of Grants Creek, and that we can take that to resource and then reserve sooner than later. Mary River is a little bit different. Mary River is our second acquisition. We did that early this year. It's about 25 kilometres as the crow flies from Nicholson's. The first program of 8 holes, you can see we've returned some really wide intercepts there, 32 metres at about 1.8 grams a tonne, so certainly rivals some of the big bulk sort of operations that we've seen to date. We've got about 18 kilometres along strike there. All of the drilling that's marked there is, all of the mines that are marked there are historical mines from the 1880s. We've only drilled under the Reform mine at the moment. The next step is to move south through the Shane area that's marked there as well, but there's real potential to have a big, broad, lower grade ore body with some high grade patches through there as we drill that out, and real potential to drill up a big large ounce deposit. So that sums the presentation up. I've got 8 seconds to go. So you can see that we're a Western Australian miner. We're focused in one area. We've really got that entire region tied up. We've continued to deliver consistent growth in the project. We've done the bulk of the capital projects required to keep delivering that growth as we go forward, and we've got that dominant regional position, which I think sets us very well for the future. Thanks very much.